In the far edge of the galaxy there was a small human colony called Nova Terra. The people there lived in peace, growing crops, raising families, and building a new life away from the crowded worlds near Earth. They had no warships, no armies, only hope. Then one day, the sky changed. 3 giant alien warships entered Nova Terra's orbit, black and sharp. They came from the Varkal Empire, a cruel race that ruled nearby systems with fear. The Varkal commander sent one message: "You are now Varkal property. Surrender or be destroyed." The colony leaders tried to reason. "We are peaceful. We are settlers. We have no weapons." The Varkal laughed. "Then you are easy." Colonel Reese, the colony's head of defense, stood on the rooftop of the command center. He looked at the sky. The alien ships blocked the sun. His soldiers, barely trained, stood around him with shaking hands. "Send the distress call," Reese said. His communication officer hesitated. "Will anyone answer?" Reese's eyes stayed on the sky. "Maybe not, but we have to try." The message was short. "This is Nova Terra, human colony, under attack by Varkal warships. We request immediate help, please, anyone." They waited and waited. No answer. Across the stars, the distress call reached the Galactic Alliance, a council of advanced alien species. They received the message. They read the words, but they ignored it. "Nova Terra," said a snake-like diplomat. "Too far. It's just a farming colony," said another. "Not worth the risk." Only one council member, a silent old creature with deep scars, whispered, "Earth won't forget this." But no one listened. The Alliance never replied. Back on Nova Terra, the people prepared for the worst. Mothers held their children tight. Elders dug shelters underground. Soldiers set up weak shields, more for comfort than protection. In the small classroom near the town center, a little girl named Lena sat beside her teacher. Her eyes were wide, full of fear. "Teacher," she asked, "is someone coming to save us?" The teacher forced a smile. "Of course, child." But her voice cracked, because she didn't believe it. Far away, very far on old Earth, something beeped in a forgotten room under the ocean. It was an ancient listening post, built centuries ago, never shut down. And it had heard the cry. The TIE signal reached an old military base, hidden beneath a mountain. There, one man stood alone in front of a massive map of the stars. His name was Admiral Kale, once called the Ghost of Saturn. He had fought in the old wars. He had seen the galaxy turn its back on humans before. He read the message. He closed his eyes, then whispered to himself, "They think no one will come." He pressed a single button. Sirens rang, deep under the earth. Massive hangar doors opened. Old warships, dusty, silent, lit up for the first time in years. A voice echoed through the base. "Form the Armada." Back on Nova Terra, the people watched. The night sky. No help had come. The alien ships were getting closer. They were scanning the colony, testing the shields, preparing to strike. Colonel Reese stood in front of the main gate holding a simple pulse rifle. He knew it was useless, but he stood tall. Behind him, others stood too. Farmers, teachers, engineers, even children who refused to hide. "We may fall," Reese said, "but we won't kneel." At that moment, something changed. A small boy pointed at the sky. "Look," he shouted. A light appeared, then another, then hundreds. Bright dots moving fast, faster than any alien ship. "What is that?" a Varkal commander asked aboard his ship, but deep in his heart he already knew. The first human dreadnought entered orbit. Then 10 more, then 100. Back on Nova Terra, the girl Lena smiled. "Teacher," she said. They came. The Varkal Empire had never lost a battle. Their ships were large, covered in black metal, full of advanced weapons. They ruled through fear. They didn't expect resistance. When they saw the first human dreadnought above Nova Terra, they thought, it was a mistake. Just one old ship. Maybe it came to beg. They prepared to destroy it. Then more lights appeared. 2. 10. Hundreds. And suddenly, the blackness of space was filled with something the Varkle had never felt before. Dread. Deep inside, Novaterra's command center, Colonel Reese received a signal, a human voice. "This is Admiral Kale. Novaterra, we are here." Reese couldn't speak. His lips trembled. He nodded slowly. You got our message?" We never stopped listening. On Earth, old command centers that had been silent for decades came back online. Bunkers opened. Codes long forgotten were entered again. Satellites moved into formation. Ancient shipyards hidden under oceans, behind moons, and deep within asteroids activated. No one had known they still worked, but they had never stopped waiting. The Galactic Alliance watched in shock. Alien leaders stared at their screens. How did Earth build this?" one asked. "They didn't," said a quiet voice. "They already had it. They just never used it." Another council member stood stunned. "They had the strongest fleet in the galaxy. And they never told anyone?" Talon, now the lead human history advisor, said softly, "Because we never wanted to lead through fear. But we never stopped preparing." On the planet Halaris, a mining colony paused their work. Miners looked up to see human transport ships delivering medical aid. A message was heard. "Your cries were ignored. Not anymore." On the prison moon VX-11, where political prisoners were abandoned, human Marines dropped supplies and opened the gates. One prisoner asked, "Why help us?" The Marine replied, "Because Earth remembers what it feels like to be forgotten." Across the stars, humans didn't bring speeches. They brought actions. Rescue, protection, hope. On Novaterra, the sky now glowed with the reflection of the Armada, a wall of steel, of fire, of memory. Admiral Kale's face appeared on every screen. His voice was calm. His eyes were sharp. "To the Varkle Empire, you threatened our children. You mocked our silence. You thought we would not come. You were wrong." In the Varkle war room, alarms rang. Generals screamed for retreat, but the humans were already surrounding them. The Admiral sent one last message: "Leave, or be removed." The Varkle hesitated. Then, in a flash of blue light, one of their ships exploded, not destroyed by missiles, but disabled by precision. One shot. No deaths. Just a message: "We don't kill unless we must. But we protect always." On Novaterra, people cried, not from fear, but from relief. Mothers hugged their children. Elders fell to their knees and whispered prayers. And Lena, the little girl, stood on her rooftop and whispered, "I knew they would come." The human fleet had saved Novaterra, but they did not stop. They turned, they moved, and they marched. Through silent sectors, through dark zones marked danger or no entry, the Armada flew with purpose. Ships of steel and fire, ships built not to conquer, but to remind. On board the lead dreadnought, Admiral Kale stood in silence, eyes locked on the stars ahead. His face was calm, but his heart was burning. This was not about war. This was about memory. Each ship had its own crew, pilots, soldiers, medics, engineers, but they all followed the same message. No colony left behind, no cry unanswered, no life forgotten. The next planet was Mira Station, a trade post once protected by the Galactic Alliance, until the Alliance pulled out, leaving it open to raiders. The people there had sent hundreds of messages. No one answered. Until now. The human fleet arrived. Without warning, raiders in orbit laughed at first. "What are these old human toys going to do?" they joked. Then the sky split in two. Titan-class carriers dropped walls of light into orbit, cutting the raiders' escape. The ships didn't fire. They spoke. One sentence played through every raider ship. "You have 30 seconds to leave. After that, we remember everything you've done." They left in 20. On Mira Station, the people wept as supplies were dropped, medics landed, and solar shields were repaired. A little boy ran to a human pilot and asked, "Are you from Earth?" The pilot smiled and knelt. "I'm from Earth," she said, "but I fly for every planet that was forgotten." On the next system, an old satellite picked up the human ships. It hadn't worked in years. But as the armada passed, it lit up, just for a second, and sent a message. "Thank you. We are still here." The galaxy watched. World by world. System by system, the march continued, and behind every human ship came change. The Galactic Alliance held emergency meetings. Leaders argued. Some were angry, some were scared. "They're showing us up," one shouted. "They're waking the galaxy," another replied. Talon sat quietly in the back of the room. Then he stood and said, "They aren't coming for your chairs. They're coming for your silence." On board one carrier, a group of young human cadets gathered in a briefing room. They weren't soldiers yet, but they had seen what Earth's mightiest armada stood for. "Sir," one cadet asked, "why didn't we help sooner?" The officer looked at them and replied, "Because before this fleet we were told to wait. Now we've been told to remember." The final system in their path before returning home was Solinar 5, an abandoned station floating in darkness. No. Signal. No power. No life signs. But the Admiral gave the order. "Approach slowly. Power up scanners." They found 127 survivors, living underground, forgotten for 40 years. When the first human landed, a thin, pale woman stepped forward and whispered, "We never stopped believing. We knew someone would come." And now the galaxy knew too. When all others turn away, when the councils debate, when the powerful ignore, Earth comes, and Earth comes with might. The Varkal Empire was furious. Nova Terra had survived. Mira Station was restored. Their grip on the outer rim was slipping, and the galaxy was watching. Not them, but humans. The Empire had ruled with terror. But now, people whispered a different name. Earth. To stop this rise, the Varkal gathered their strongest fleet, 200 warships, their deadliest commanders, and one purpose: crush the humans, in public, in fire, in fear. They chose their target carefully: Dara's Reach, a human-alien mixed colony under their control. Not important enough for the Alliance to defend, but important enough to break hope. They blocked all exits, cut power. To the colony, began building a massive energy cannon to destroy it in front of the galaxy. "Let them watch their heroes fail," the Varkal High Commander said. "Let them see Earth too late." In Dara's Reach, panic filled the air. Families gathered underground, lights flickered, water ran low, and above them, the Varkal cannon began to glow. The people had heard stories, they had seen images, but no one knew if the humans would really come. Until they did. A flash tore across the edge of the system, a ripple of blue light. And then, they arrived. Earth's armada, in full force. But they didn't rush in. They formed a wall, positioned, not panicked. Rows and rows of steel and fire. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, carriers, ships older than myths, ships newer than imagination. The lead ship opened a wide band channel. Admiral Kale's voice filled every ear. "This is not war. This is protection. Leave this colony in peace." The Varkal commander laughed. "Fire everything," he ordered, and space lit up. Hundreds of plasma bolts, rockets, mines, blazing toward the human fleet. But the humans did not flinch. They didn't move. Their ships shimmered with shields made from ancient tech mixed with modern genius. They absorbed it. Then, finally, they answered, not with chaos, with precision. 10 human ships fired in unison. No random strikes. Each shot hit a vital point on the enemy. Vessels, engines, weapons, shields. Varkal ships shut down one by one, no explosions, no blood, just silence. The Varkal fleet panicked. "They're reading us like open books." One screamed. The cannon was fully charged. They aimed it at the colony below. But before they could fire, a human marine transport dropped from orbit, straight into the heart of the Varkal command base on the planet. The base shook. The doors burst open, and Earth soldiers walked in, calm, focused, unstoppable. Their armor shone with marks of battles long past. On each chest, a single symbol. The fire that never dies. Colonists emerged from shelters blinking into the sunlight. They saw humans in formation. They saw the Varkal prisoners kneeling. They saw their sky clear, and they wept. A little girl walked up to a tall human soldier, armor still glowing. She looked up and asked, "Why did you come?" The soldier removed his helmet. His face was scarred, kind, and tired. He knelt and said, "Because we heard you. And Earth doesn't forget those who ask for help." That night, a message was sent from Dara's reach. It traveled across stars, across systems, across planets. The siege is broken, the fire lives, Earth stands, and somewhere in a quiet corner of the galaxy, a frightened colony heard that message and whispered, "We're not alone anymore." They called it the day the sky burned gold, not from flames, not from destruction, but from the reflection of hundreds of human ships in orbit above Dara's reach. The siege had ended, but the message had just begun. Across the galaxy, people watched. The recordings, humans walking calmly through destroyed Varkal bases, humans protecting civilians without demanding control, humans leaving behind supplies, medicine, power cores, not flags, no banners, no anthem, just presence. On the planet Talaris, a child painted a picture for school. One human soldier standing between two stars. Above him, she wrote in her language, "He did not come to fight. He came to protect." In the markets of Zelon 9, traders, who once refused to deal with humans, now put up signs, "Human-friendly zone." Welcome to Earthborn. Humans were no longer myths. They were no longer warnings. They were something different now. They were a promise. On board the dreadnought Eternal Flame, Admiral Kale stood alone in the observation deck. He stared at the stars. Behind him, a young officer entered. "Sir, our next system is ready. They're waiting for us." Kale didn't turn. He simply asked, "Do you think they understand now?" The officer paused. "Some do. Some are scared. But all of them are watching." Kyle nodded. "Then we keep going. We don't come to conquer. We come to remind them. Earth remembers." Not everyone was happy. In the high halls of the Galactic Alliance, fear grew like vines. "They're too powerful," said one leader. "They didn't ask for permission," said another. "What if they turn on us?" But Talon, now an advisor to many systems, stood up and said, "They turned toward us when we turned away from others. They don't want your power. They want your memory. They want you to remember who you left behind." On the colony of Serene's Hope, once abandoned, a survivor looked at the stars and whispered, "The galaxy forgot us, but the fire didn't." That's what they began to call it now. The legacy of fire. Not for war, not for anger, but for light, for warmth, for warning. A symbol that wherever the weak cried, the fire would rise. In one part of the galaxy, the Varkal tried to rebuild, but when they powered up their scanners, they found something waiting near their borders. Not ships, not weapons. A single probe, floating, silent, and glowing with red-orange light on it. One message played in a calm human voice. "We could have destroyed you, but we chose not to. Choose wisely next time. We will be watching." Back on Nova Terra, where it all began, children played in the fields again. They ran beneath banners made from cloth stitched by survivors. On each banner, a new emblem, a simple flame wrapped around a planet. Beneath it, Earth stands, and, in the evening when the sky turned purple, the people gathered. They told stories not of gods, not of monsters, but of a fleet that came from silence, that heard their cry, that burned through darkness not to destroy, but to guide. Earth's fire had returned, and this time it would never go out. The stars had always belonged to the powerful, Empires ruled. Alliances debated. Councils decided who lived and who was forgotten. But now the stars were whispering something new. A voice not of orders, but of warning. And the voice belonged to Earth. In the skies above Murad 4, a golden ship hovered without sound. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It only projected one image across the planet's skies, a single human flame, beating like a heart, and under it, glowing words in every language: never again. On Voktel, where a minor empire once enslaved 3 planets, all their chains were melted overnight, not by war, but by precision. Human drones disabled every control system in their prisons, without harming a single life. And as the prisoners stepped into sunlight for the first time, a human voice played across the sky. Freedom is not a gift, it is a right, and we remember those who were denied it. On the council homeworld, panic had turned to whispers, secret meetings, closed doors, long nights of fear. They are too big. We never approved this. What if they keep going? Talon stood in the center of a dark chamber, surrounded by silence. He looked at them one by one and spoke softly. You don't fear what humans are doing. You fear being seen as the ones who didn't. They are not warning us because they want control. They are warning us because we stopped caring. Across the galaxy, that warning was felt. Not through violence, through presence. Wherever the human fleet went, things changed. Power was restored to villages long ignored. Ancient wounds between species were healed by quiet diplomacy. Greedy trade lords shut down their slave routes, not from law, but from fear of being watched. Admiral Kale, aboard the flagship Eternal Flame, prepared his final transmission, the Eye. Fleet slowed near the center of the galaxy. All systems were online. Single satellite was launched. The torch dotted. Its signal was broadcast across every known system, and the galaxy listened. Kyle appeared on screens of all sizes, young, old, tired, proud. He wore no medals, only the mark of fire on his chest. His voice was steady, his words simple. We are not here to rule. We are not here to conquer. We are here to make sure no cry is unheard again. If you protect your people, you'll never see us. If you abandon them, we will be the ones who answer. We are Earth, and we have remembered what you forgot. This is not a threat. This is a promise. After the message ended, the stars around the torch flared once, just enough for every telescope to see it. Not a weapon, a signal, a warning to the stars. On a forgotten world once wiped out by the Varkal, a child stood in the ruins of an old school. He stared at the sky and saw it. The flame, the promise, the future. He smiled and whispered, "They're watching, we're safe now." The galaxy was quiet. No wars, no raids, no cries in the dark, just silence. But not the silence of fear. The silence of being watched. The human fleet no longer appeared in every sky. Many ships returned to deep space. Others entered low orbit, sleeping above the worlds they had saved. Some disappeared entirely, like shadows in the stars. They did not need to stay. Their message was already written. On the planet Karnas, a child found a smooth black stone in the forest. When she touched it, a hologram played, a human pilot smiling. "This is for you," the voice said. "Not because you are rich or strong, but because you are here. And no one should feel forgotten." The girl showed the stone to her village. They placed it in the center of town, and every night, they lit candles around it. They called it the Watching Flame. In a prison colony once ruled by cruelty, a new leader took power. Not through votes, not through force. She was a former prisoner. She had been freed by a single human soldier who never told her his name. He gave her food, a knife, and 6 words. Lead with mercy or be replaced. She never forgot. On Nova Terra, where it all began, the fields were full again. Children played under rebuilt towers. Families planted new seeds. The sky was peaceful. But still they remembered. Every year on the day the fleet came, the people gathered around a great bonfire. They sang no songs. They gave no speeches. They just watched the flames. Because they knew Earth still watched them. In the center of the galaxy, the torch still floated, a soft beacon, pulsing gently, and every night the stars around it blinked, not randomly, in a pattern. A heartbeat. The Galactic Alliance changed. Council members stepped down, others rose, people who had listened to the flame. New laws were passed. Small colonies were protected. Justice was no longer a request, it was a right. And whenever someone doubted, they only had to look up and remember. No one knew where Admiral Kale went. Some say he returned to Earth. Others say he sleeps in a ship of light, hidden beyond the edge of all maps. Some even say he was never one man, but the will of many. But those who saw him remembered one thing: his eyes. Eyes that held stars and sorrow and strength. Eyes that said, "We may be far, but we are never gone." And so the galaxy moved forward, not with fear, but with fire in their memory. And whenever a planet trembled, or a station cried out, or a leader forgot their people, they remembered the ships. They remembered the flame. They remembered Earth, and far, far away in the quiet of space, a single message played from an old human probe drifting through the dark. We are not your rulers. We are not your heroes. We are your memory. And when you forget again, we will return. Earth watches now, and the stars know it.